Undersea gas pipeline on fire in Gulf of Mexico. 19 missing after mudslide sweep away homes in Japan. Good evening from Studio 3 of TV Education Timor Newsroom. I'm Darcy Lilifania. Pleasure to be with you all to announce the Voice of America News through the TV Education Timor channel. Well, let's begin the news for today. Portion of a collapsed South Florida condo building in the mostly late Sunday on July 4th. North Korean coronavirus lockdown has taken a major toll on its economy.
North Korea may be the only nation to claim it is COVID-19 free, but even it now admits a worsening pandemic-related crisis. Last week, Kim Jong-un vaguely warned of a mysterious, grave incident suggesting a major coronavirus lapse. He also recently acknowledged food shortages, comparing the situation to a devastating 1990s famine.
There's worries that there will be another arduous march type of situation.
The arduous march refers to the period of mass starvation during the rule of Kim's father, the late Kim Jong-il, which may have killed millions. It's impossible to say how bad the situation is now. There are no signs of mass starvation. But prices of food and certain luxury items from China have skyrocketed amid North Korea's toughest in the world lockdown.
People are hurting because of the closure of the border, because of the poor harvest last year, because your movements are restricted. People, particularly in the border region with China, aren't able to conduct their business activities, official or non-official.
Despite the crisis, North Korea has shown no urgency in getting coronavirus vaccines. VOA has learned that North Korea has not even completed the paperwork to get vaccines from COVAX, the UN-backed vaccine sharing group. It's not clear North Korea has vaccines from anywhere else either, puzzling observers.
I do wonder about it, because while you have some people, in the United States for instance, who refuse vaccines or masks for cultural reasons, it's not the same situation in North Korea.
North Korea's basic predicament is that it wants to keep the border closed to protect from the virus, but must open it to get vaccines. It's a situation that may not threaten Kim's rule, but will get riskier the longer it lasts. Bill Gallo, VOA News, Seoul.
Meet Rezan, a first-time mom who gave birth during the pandemic.
When you're pregnant, you're kind of bombarded with information about, things like Zika or other, diseases that can really affect the fetus. And with COVID, just no information at all. All of our dreams of doing baby moons or having any sort of travel while we were pregnant, just obviously couldn't happen. All of the scans that I was getting, just to make sure it was a healthy pregnancy. Normally you would have your partner or spouse there. These are really big milestones. So the 20-week scan, which is the really big one, almost always a husband would be there. So my husband kind of missed out on all of those. I mean, obviously he got to see the images, but just interacting in real time with the tech, he kind of didn't get to have that experience. So that was a little bit disappointing. But luckily they did allow one person to be with you in the delivery, so it could have been a doula. Obviously in my case I wanted my husband to be able to experience it, so he was there, gowned up like any normal delivery husband. He was able to be right near me the whole time. He was able to hold me. He had to wear a mask, but I didn't, so I was a little nervous going into the delivery whether or not I'd have to go through a pretty intense physical experience in a mask, but because I was negative, they didn't make me mask up. post-birth is already a pretty intense period for any new parent. You're constantly questioning whether you're doing enough, and layering COVID on top of that, still so many unknowns about how it would affect children. Sometimes you hear it doesn't affect them at all. Other times you hear that they can have serious issues. We missed out on all those early visits, the way that we missed out on a baby shower. So it wasn't easy. I have to say, there was a lot of texting, a lot of phone calls. The silver lining, I would have to say, though, is no fear of missing out. Normally I think when you're a new mom, you're really feeling the left behind, you can't go see the hottest movies, you can't eat out, you're really stuck at home all the time. Well, during COVID, everyone was stuck at home. So I wasn't being reminded of what I was missing necessarily, because there was nothing being shared. I think if I had been having that kind of resumption of normal life hanging over me, I maybe felt a little bit more anxious about it. I just remember so many of my friends, the last month of their maternity leave, there's this kind of almost dread, because you've gotten so used to one-on-one time with their baby, and now you have to think about somebody else stepping in to that role. It's such an abrupt shift, and for me, I was able to kind of transition that a lot more gradually, which I think has been really wonderful and allowed me to really feel comfortable in my role as her mom.
Conservationists in Zimbabwe are trying to rally opposition to a Chinese coal mining project planned in a district within the country's biggest national park.
Most Dinda villagers in Hwange district say they are opposed to the coal mining project by Beifa Investments, but many are unwilling to speak up for fear of retaliation. About 600 families fear being displaced if the coal project goes ahead. One of them is Maurice Sebanda.
At the same time, fearing that any time I can be evicted. Secondly, our grazing areas, we've got a river called Inyantuwe, that's where we get water. It's our main source of water. So definitely when this mine succeeds, my fear again is that toxic acids might be found in the river.
Other villagers are worried that the project will take away grazing land for their cattle and wildlife. But Beifa Investments continues with its exploration project. Zimbabwe's government says Dinda people were consulted before the company was allowed to start mining. Amunkela Sidanke is the Education and Publicity Manager for the government's Environmental Management Agency. She says an Environmental Impact Assessment EIA report addressed and cleared all Dinda's concerns.
Their fears, they are all taken care of. In fact, as long as the EIA was done, it's being monitored by the agency, so nothing is going to be done which is outside what the agreement was in the EIA for exploration.
Farai Magu is the director of the Center for Natural Resource Governance, a local NGO. The group is opposed to the Dinda coal mining project, partly because there are no clear plans on where the villagers will be taken if they are displaced. That's not all. Magu says coal mining undermines Zimbabwe's plans to build a green economy and to reduce carbon emissions by 33% by 2030.
But that will not happen as long as the country continue to invest in dirty energy, as what is about to happen in Dinde. We will not allow the government to continue talking left and then walking right.
Sibandam, like most villagers around here, says he does not know what tomorrow will bring. The villagers fear that more coal projects will be approved and encroach into Hwange National Park, the country's largest wildlife sanctuary. Columbus Mavunga for VOA News, Hwange, Zimbabwe.
A powerful mudslide carrying deluge of black water and debris crashed into row of houses in Atami, Japan, following heavy rain and leaving at least 19 people missing on Saturday, July 3rd. Afghanistan National Security Advisor Hamdullah Mohid on Friday met his Russian counterpart Nikola Patrushev in Moscow to discuss security cooperation between the two countries.
د روسیې له لوړپوړو مقاماتو سره د ګډو امنیتي همکاریو او نورو سیمه ییزو مهمو موضوعاتو په اړه بحث او خبرې وکړي.
پیام روسیه به طالبان از قبل خیلی واضح بوده که اگر طالب بخواه حکومت را از راه زور و خشونت بالای مردم افغانستان تحمیل کنه، نه مورد تاییدش است و نه مورد حمایتش.
د امریکایي قواوو شتون په هوایي میدان کې دا په دې معنا ده چې په یو نه بل ډول باندې امریکایان اوس هم دلته د افغان رژیم یا د افغان حکومت د دفاع لپاره شتون لري.
In California, Los Angeles, country public health officials have advised mask wearing in indoor public space to deal with rising COVID-19 cases involving the Delta variant.
The health advisory came just 2 weeks after California authorities had lifted most coronavirus restrictions in the state. The recommendation to resume wearing masks in public spaces because of the spreading Delta variant appeared on the Los Angeles Health Department's Twitter feed on June 28th. The news both puzzled and upset many LA residents. Kaylee was among them.
I've been vaccinated. I honestly believe that if you've been vaccinated and everyone else has been vaccinated, I don't think we need the masks anymore. I'm going to walk right in there and enjoy the fact that I get to go to the grocery store and be able to breathe.
Yet, many residents are following the advisory and are concerned about the new coronavirus variants.
Probably yes, if they would say so. I'm not vaccinated yet, but if they'll suggest us to do so, I'll do it.
In May, only about 4% of those infected with COVID-19 had the Delta variant. By June, this figure had climbed to 14.5%.
Заразность этого вируса намного выше, чем, например, у вируса гриппа.
This variant of the virus is a lot more contagious than, say, the common flu. This new Delta variant has more common traits with human protein. That's why it's so contagious.
И поэтому его заразность намного выше.
The good news is that the vaccines, at least for which we have data, and that includes the Pfizer vaccine and the AstraZeneca vaccine, still seem to be effective in preventing hospitalizations and serious disease from the Delta variant. But the bad news is it is more infectious. That means it spreads more easily.
Experts say the Delta variant is especially dangerous for those who have not been vaccinated or have received just 1 dose of a 2-dose vaccine. Also vulnerable are fully vaccinated people who suffer from chronic diseases or have a weakened immune system. That's why the county recommended that people start wearing masks again.
The reason why I think they're suggesting that even vaccinated people wear masks indoors is because we know most of the transmission from SARS-CoV-2 occurs indoors. And really the risk of catching SARS-CoV-2 when you're outside, particularly when you're physically distancing, is extremely low. But indoors, when you're around other people, close together, particularly when you're there for longer periods of time, that's where transmission's more likely to occur, and wearing masks will help to prevent that.
People in California, unlike those in some other states, are getting their shots. Almost half of all state residents are fully vaccinated. The high vaccination numbers lead experts to believe there won't be another strict lockdown in California. Over 154 million people have been fully vaccinated in the U.S. For Angelina Bagdasaryan in Los Angeles, Anna Rice, VOA News.
Life in New York City is slowly returning to normal after the coronavirus pandemic hit the city hard more than 15 months ago.
Street music and outdoor dining parties have returned to New York after 15 long months of restrictions and lockdowns aimed at stopping the spread of COVID-19.
You can sit down in more restaurants without having to give names and get a temperature check. So it's heading in the right direction, I'd say.
I kind of feel back to normal, almost there. Yeah, feels good. Good to be in New York.
I don't know, I just want the world to heal. Thought I could make it better. I had time to kill, so I was like, why don't I come outside and, try to make some sounds, spread some love,
Music festivals, farmers markets, and other events are making up for a year of forced inactivity. Union Square is packed with people, and all are 2 meters apart, even though city authorities have lifted social distancing and other pandemic restrictions imposed in March 2020. By late June this year, the number of people in New York City testing positive for COVID-19 was the lowest it has ever been. In New York State alone, over 20 million vaccine doses have been administered, and 9 million of those went to New York City residents. Despite the relaxation of restrictions, many are still wearing masks, even outside.
Even as I walked down the street, people said they lifted the restrictions, but I was like, I can wait a day or two.
You don't know who's vaccinated, who isn't vaccinated, all of that. It's in flux. So, no, I think we have a good ways to go.
Despite the scorching summer heat, street vendors are also wearing masks for their own safety and for their clients' peace of mind.
We're just back to work, but the life is not back like normal. It needs time to be okay.
Just 62% of Manhattan office workers will be heading back to their desks in September, and they will spend only 3 days a week at most in the office, according to a survey by the Partnership for New York City. Almost 40% of office workers say they are ready to resign if they cannot work from home a few days a week. There is also concern about the safety of using public transportation again.
It's hard. Yeah, getting on the subway and walking around, even though I know the restrictions are lifted and we're outside, I still sometimes feel a little guilty, even though I know I'm fine.
New York authorities have launched a program to help reopen small businesses hurt by the pandemic. The $11 million program, called New York City Business Quick Start, aims to help some 50,000 small businesses by guaranteeing quick responses to inquiries and cutting processing time by 50%. For Nina Vishneva in New York, Anna Rice, VOA News.
Mexico's state-owned oil company said on Friday it suffered a rupture in an undersea gas pipeline in the Gulf of Mexico. Well, viewers, that's all for Today Times Sizzling News. Once again, I'm Dorseli Lifania with all crew of VOA and TV Education Timor. Step back from your face, have a great day, and see you next time. TV Education Timor is the future inspiration.